Welcome everybody to the Cover 2 podcast. Great show headed your way. I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
A lot more football here to talk about. We got college football. We got NFL. I might maybe mention a little high school football on this show. You never know. Jared. It's football season. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously,
yes,
lots of storylines, and we will get to more game reactions and game recaps in just a bit. But Jared, we got some news to talk about. We got a big trade that happened. Not necessarily big pieces traded, not a lot of pieces, but Josh Gordon has been traded to the New England Patriots. Oh no, right?
Josh Gordon, the former Browns. Josh Gordon.
Yes, because
weed smoking Josh Gordon.
See, you had to mention it. Yeah.
Of course,
yeah. Well, him and Johnny Manziel ain't partying in L.A. anymore. He'll be partying in Boston.
Okay.
But nonetheless, a big trade for New England, and fans around the AFC and the NFL as well, kind of going, no, right? Because now the Patriots are probably going to be back in Super Bowl, all this stuff. They got to start receiver. Soon enough, Julian Edelman will come back for them. They still have Gronk. They still have Chris Hogan. So, Jared, what are your thoughts? Josh Gordon is now on this New England Patriots roster.
Yeah, well, this isn't the first time that the Patriots have, let's say, gambled on a big-time receiver. They obviously did it with Randy Moss, and they went to the Super Bowl with him. They took a flyer on an aging Chad Ochocinco, and that obviously didn't work out, but they were at least willing to take an opportunity to bring him onto the roster. Now, Josh Gordon arguably has better talent than both of those players. I'm not going to sit here and say he's better than Randy Moss, but at this point in Josh Gordon's career with his age, if he can, stay off the weed and other substances and keep himself healthy and buy into the quote-unquote Patriot way, I know that's a lot of ifs, but if he can do that, then I think he can contribute to a ailing receiving core for the Patriots that, like you mentioned, is still missing Julian Edelman, who's serving his 4-game suspension. Obviously, he will miss this Week 3 game and obviously next week as well. So their starting receivers have been Chris Hogan, Chad Hansen, and Cordell Patterson.
Big-time guys right there.
Yeah, big-time receivers right there as we're looking at their depth chart. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski is our focal point as far as the passing game goes, and Tom Brady makes everyone better. But, this is kind of like Josh Gordon was such a big name, but I believe in the last, 3 years, he's played 11 games. So, what are we going to get from him? It sounds great on paper. When you put him on paper next to Gronk and Tom Brady, it's like, oh my gosh, Josh Gordon, seriously? Tom Brady finally has a legit weapon. But then, is he going to be available? And that's just what we don't know on a consistent basis.
Well, one of the big things about this trade was if Josh Gordon isn't active for 10 games, which is a lot of games for him. You're talking about 11 games in 3 years. That would eventually, to be honest, that would mean he would have to play pretty much almost every single game for the rest of the season, right? Because he might not be active for this game this Sunday because he doesn't know the playbook. And then he's going to have to be active for the rest of those games. That means none of these hamstring injuries during a photo shoot, none of these, no more weed, obviously, no drinking before the games like he's previously said he's done, or the New England Patriots actually get a 7th-round draft pick in return, so they actually gain completely on their return. They're giving up a 5th-round pick. Seemed a little, it seems like not a big draft pick to trade for a guy like Josh Gordon. I get that he might not be on the field, but I think Cleveland could have juiced a little more out of him, maybe a 4th-round, 3rd-round pick, something like that. You see a lot of these guys like Khalil Mack going for 2 first-round picks. I think the talent level of Josh Gordon is not where Khalil Mack's is, but it's around there, so I don't think he should have got traded for the 5th-round pick. But New England, safety net, 7th-round pick if Josh indeed doesn't end up being a player for them.
Now, for a second, can we just talk about this hamstring injury that
yes,
occurred at a photo shoot?
Correct, I mean, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out. It's a photo shoot, so maybe they have you doing certain movements in order to get an action shot, but it's like, how do you hurt your hamstring at a photo shoot when you're supposed to be standing still?
Yeah.
I've done, I guess, a couple of photo shoots when I was a little kid, but I don't know. This just doesn't add up to me, man. obviously for the Browns, that had to be the final straw after everything they've gone through, and then for this guy,
oh my God, amazing! That's
the
final straw.
Doing that and not on the football field, of course, has to be the final straw. But it's like, explain to me, Nick, how do you hurt your hamstring at a photo shoot?
Well, as a model myself, no, I'm just kidding. No, well, I don't know, Jared. I don't have a 100% answer to you. I don't know if he was doing calisthenics, maybe during the photo shoot. I don't know. I honestly think it's BS. I think he just hurt his hamstring, probably doing something stupid because he's done a lot of stupid things in his life already. So I wouldn't put it behind him just to lie about it. And the Browns just said, is one of those things, like a teacher. There's that kid in class that gets in trouble a lot, and he comes in with an excuse.
Oh, man.
The 20th excuse of the year. Oh, my dog ate my homework.
Right.
Some crazy thing. I hurt my hamstring so I couldn't do my homework. And they just go, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good. And then they go, oh, by the way, we're going to release you on Monday. We're going to release you or trade you on Monday. Monday we saw him get traded in the New England Patriots. So it was the final straw. I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter at this point. The Patriots have enough clout and enough roster depth to pick up a guy like Josh Gordon and not really have to worry about actually playing him. If he's on the field, like you mentioned, they might have the next Randy Moss. If he's not, they still are probably going to go to the Super Bowl anyway. So it's not a big deal. It's more about helping Josh and really trying to dominate for the next couple of years, which is what they could do. But any other thoughts on this Josh Gordon situation?
Yeah, just kind of one last thing to wrap this up. I think a lot of this really gained steam for the Patriots after they lost to the Jaguars this past Sunday, 31-20.
Yes.
And their offense really looked pretty pathetic. I think you do have to credit the Jaguars' defense for that, because that defense is legit and they are very, very good and they have great players all across the board. But you even saw it on the sidelines. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, literally got the entire offensive unit around him and was screaming at them. You saw Tom Brady yelling at someone on the sideline.
Sure, yeah.
There was a lot of disgruntled players for the Patriots, and I think Bill Belichick realized, all right, at least from an offensive standpoint, we need to go out and get ourselves another playmaker. So that team had a bad game all around. They gave up 31 points to the Jaguars and Blake Bortles, and they made Blake Bortles look like a Pro Bowl player. So that defense has its own issues. But offensively, I just feel like Bill Belichick said, all right, it's time to go out and get ourselves a wide receiver. We'll give up a fifth-round pick. That's not really, like you mentioned earlier, that's not really a sought-after pick. So it's okay to give something like that up. It'd be a little different if it was a second or a third rounder. But a fifth rounder, they're okay with that, giving that up. So we will see if he is active for this week. They are at Detroit, where their former defensive coordinator Matt Patricia is now the head coach there, so that'll be a fun little reunion to watch. But we will see if Josh Gordon is actually active or not. We'll see if he can pick up the playbook quick enough and all that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not active, if they kind of give him another full week.
Well, he was barely active on the Browns, too. What's the chances he goes and plays 25 plays?
And if he is active, I guarantee it's for a handful of plays, and it'll be simple, maybe a couple fade routes, something in the red zone, something like that. But he definitely won't be playing a whole lot in this game. Yeah,
it's almost funny. It's like you look at the Patriots picking up Josh Gordon, and Bill Belichick, I wouldn't put this behind him to do this. But what if he just got Josh Gordon because he knew, hey, Matt Patricia might know our playbook on offense. Let's just get this guy that he's never seen before. Couple plays, you know what I'm saying? For one, they might have literally only got Josh Gordon for 1 week against Matt Patricia, against that Lions defense. You never know. Real quick, Lions, could they really be 3-0 after this week? That's kind of crazy to think about, right? The Lions last couple of years have been 9-7, 8-8, and they almost could be 0-3 after this week too. So.
Oh, the Lions are garbage.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying. Well, they didn't look like garbage before the season, though. They didn't look like they were going to be 0-3.
Yeah, they did. Sorry, man. I don't know what kind of Lions team you're watching.
I think I said the Lions were going to be third, right? At least.
Okay.
Third is not 0-3.
Well, they're trending towards fourth.
I thought they'd beat the Jets.
Yeah, they are home against the Patriots this week. Check out this schedule. The following week, they travel to Dallas.
That's tough.
The following week, they get the Packers at home.
And they're going to be 0-5.
So, yeah, they're looking at an 0-5 record, and then they play the Dolphins.
Lions fans are going to be putting their the bags back on their head.
Yeah, so that's not looking good. I think the Lions are looking like one of the worst teams, along with your Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, come on,
Didn't
man.
mean to throw some shade there.
Man.
I'm just saying.
The Cardinals look terrible. No. If you want me to shoot, I'll shoot right now. This last weekend was the worst Cardinals game I've ever seen them play. They got past the 50 once. Sam Bradford, I believe the quarterback for my brother's high school team might be better than Sam Bradford at this point.
Wow.
A little more accurate.
Wow.
Well, Sam Bradford's thing is he's supposed to be accurate, and he's coming out here and he's not accurate, and when we need first downs, he's not getting them, and that therefore you can't get the ball to David Johnson because the Rams, you don't want to have to play the Rams week 2, thanks NFL for that scheduling, but nonetheless, Cardinals look terrible. There's going to come a certain point this year where I'm going to be rooting for the Cardinals to lose every game and get that number 1 pick.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? So you never know. But let's move on to a team that's probably not going to be getting the number 1 pick. But they might be losing their second big-time player. A lot of rumors swirling that Antonio Brown might be getting traded. He said on Twitter that he said to a fan in response to a fan saying that he couldn't play without Big Ben, that he was only good because of the Steelers' offense. He said, "Okay, well then trade me then," or something along the lines of that.
So real quick, just to correct you,
no
it
problem.
actually wasn't a fan. It was a former, either social media or marketing person. He used to work for the Steelers.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah, so he doesn't work for the Steelers currently, but he's a former, personnel
Correct.
person for the Steelers who supposedly knew, Antonio Brown on somewhat of a personal level, as well as some other players. So he came out and said this, and so Antonio Brown felt because he knew this guy, he needed to then respond.
Yeah, when I saw this, because I think it was like, I remember waking up in the morning or something like that, and just seeing the tweet come out, and I was like, oh, he's just talking crap, right, to this who I thought was a fan, right? And so I didn't think, oh, he actually wants to be traded. I thought this was news. But now, Monday isn't good practice. Doesn't show up for work. And his agent's saying that it's a personal reason. The Steelers are not saying it's a personal reason. Mike Tomlin kind of acknowledging that he expected Antonio Brown at practice, or at least not saying that he didn't, which would be kind of dumb to do because, you'd want to clear that up really quick. I don't know. This Steelers, man, their culture's not looking good right now. You have Le'Veon Bell, who's nowhere to be seen. And
Riding jet skis in South Florida.
Should we play the game right now? Did Le'Veon Bell show up this morning? Jared, do we have an update?
That's a drum roll. No,
it's not. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell is still not with the Steelers, and now it's not even a news story anymore. We're going to play the game every week just to see if he shows up, but nonetheless, I was wrong. Jared was wrong last week. I said he'd come next week. I think he said if Antonio Brown's not going to come to practice, I'm not coming to practice either. so at least Monday we knew Le'Veon wasn't going to show up. But, man, the culture's taking a hit, and I don't know who to blame. Is it Mike Tomlin? Is it Big Ben? Is it management? I don't know. It just seems like something's wrong with the culture. We saw Antonio Brown yelling at the offensive coordinator on the sidelines in the game against the San Diego Chiefs. Wow, I almost got that wrong.
Wow.
Against Kansas City Chiefs, where they ended up losing, giving up 42 points. Jared, what's your thoughts? Antonio Brown. Are these trade rumors legit?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Yeah.
This is Antonio Brown expressing his frustrations, and a lot of times when you talk about receivers and big name receivers, you hear the word diva, and for a while
he was a little diva.
I'm not really a big fan of that specific term, but I feel that applies to Antonio Brown. Listen, Antonio Brown is arguably the best receiver in the game. At least, top 2.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's a question about that, right? He knows that. The man is getting paid, right? But he wants results. Week 1, you tie with the Browns, who have been horrible for the last decade.
Yeah.
Week 2, at home, the home opener, you give up 42 points to first-year starter Patrick Mahomes, who throws 6 touchdowns. He is the youngest quarterback in NFL history to throw 6 touchdowns.
We'll talk about him in a second.
And we will.
Yeah.
But so, you kind of, not that you get embarrassed because the Steelers offense put up points as well, but to give up 42 points at the home opener of the season is pretty pathetic. So I understand why Antonio Brown was upset, but the problem is I think there's other ways to handle this, and he's not going about it necessarily the right way. Obviously, you can sit here and say maybe he shouldn't have responded on Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media it was to the former personnel guy that said, you are only good because of Big Ben. Maybe he should have handled that in a different way. But nonetheless, I mean, listen, a couple years ago, Antonio Brown was in the locker room after a game filming Mike Tomlin when Mike Tomlin was speaking to the team, basically saying, keep everything in house.
Yeah.
And Antonio Brown was literally filming this and put this on social media.
Very stupid.
Right? So he's had a history of kind of going behind the team's back and or kind of doing his own thing. Okay? So this doesn't necessarily surprise me that Antonio Brown did not show up for work on Monday. It's already being reported that he did show up this morning. Wednesdays are typically the first day of actual install when you are going up against an opponent.
Yeah.
So this is the important day for Antonio Brown to be here. Not that Monday wasn't important, but it is better that he's here today, that the Steelers will be on the practice field in pads getting ready for their next matchup. So it's good that he's on the field today. I'm going to sit here and say that this falls on Mike Tomlin's shoulders. He is the head coach of this team. He is the one that is supposed to rally the troops, get everyone on the same page, and I don't think he's been able to do that. Talking about Le'Veon Bell, I think that's more of a management.
Absolutely.
And more of the Rooney family. I feel that that's their problem that they need to deal with. But as far as Antonio Brown, who is under contract, under a signed contract, and in the building, that is Mike Tomlin's job to get all of his 53 of his players ready to go.
Is Mike Tomlin on the hot seat?
No, he's not on the hot seat. I feel that depending on how the rest of the season goes, he could be, but I feel that he has such a good tenure. He's won a Super Bowl with his team. You still have AB and Big Ben, and obviously you have Juju Smith-Schuster. You have good players around.
Yeah.
So I think the fire's starting to build, but I definitely don't think, that there's huge flames going on.
I definitely think if they fail early in the playoffs, he's possibly on the hot seat. And I'll say this too, because you mentioned he won a Super Bowl, but you could argue that was a lot of Bill Cowher's roster that he won that Super Bowl with. So, and I know that Super Bowl well because they beat the Cardinals. And so, I don't know. You've seen this a lot with coaches, and obviously they've had a great run, but they've also had a great roster. And this year, when the roster's been a little bit depleted and they haven't been making good play calls, they're not getting the ball to Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell's not there, and they have one game this season. So I'm going to throw that a little bit on the coach, just because you should be able to, if you're one of the greats, to be able to win games in adversity, and especially beat the Browns. And I know the kicker kind of ruined it in the first game, and he might even ruin it in the second game, Chris Boswell. But nonetheless, the defense is giving up way too many points, and they shouldn't give that many points up to the Browns, either in a rainy game. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch what happens with Bell, what happens with AB. I play AB in my fantasy league this week. I really hope he doesn't absolutely go off and ruin my whole week. I'm just telling you that right. So I have a feeling that's going to happen. He's going to get like 200 yards.
They got the Monday night game against Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay.
Oh, no. I didn't even know they did that.
Antonio Brown has a great chance of going off, especially since the fact that the Tampa Bay starting cornerbacks of Vernon Hargraves and Brent Grimes, I believe, are both out right now. So
there you go.
Look for a big game from AB.
Unfortunately for my fantasy team, which shouldn't even won this week, but we got lucky, and the other guy I was playing didn't score a lot. So 1-1 on the season. Let's move back to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs obviously beat the Steelers, like we said, 42-37. Mahomes with all 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in that game. Patrick Mahomes, I remember going into the season, I thought Patrick Mahomes with that year under his belt, watching Alex Smith, a great quarterback, watching Andy Reid's offense play out, that he would be pretty good this year, better than like the Sam Darnolds or the Josh Rosens or guys like that might play early. I thought that Patrick Mahomes would be better. I didn't think he'd be this good, and I'm going to use one of your terms. I think we should pump the brakes a little bit. I think he's played two, average defenses and stuff like that, and he's been able to. There's been a lot of plays where he'll pass the ball to Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill will run 70 yards, stuff like that. So I think we should pump the brakes a little bit on the touchdown, breaking records, 60 touchdowns. Come on, okay, let's stop it. But Jared, what's your view on Patrick Mahomes? How good can this Chiefs team be? The defense isn't there for me, but how good can this offense be, and can this team actually go far with Patrick Mahomes?
This offense can be the top offense in the NFL, and so far through 2 weeks, Tyreek Hill is making good on his statement that he made the last week of the preseason when reporters asked him how good this offense can be, and he said, we're going to be the best in the NFL. And so far, he, not single-handedly, because obviously someone has to throw him the ball, but he's doing a lot of the damage. And this offense, yeah, you're right, this defense is not that good. And luckily, they have a great offense to lean back on.
I mean, they were kicking the Steelers' ass in this game.
Right.
And they came right back like it was nothing.
They
so
did.
It's going to be a problem later. But
two things that I really want to focus on. One, the fact that I want to give Andy Reid a lot of props. Andy Reid, being a head coach for the majority of his career, came up as an offensive coordinator, was the head coach of Philadelphia, took them to the Super Bowl when they lost to the Patriots. He is a quarterback guru. He knows how to get the most out of his quarterbacks. I want to give him a lot of credit for having faith in Patrick Mahomes, because it wasn't just his decision to draft Patrick Mahomes in the first round and move up to get him, right? I'm sure he had a say in it, but it wasn't all his decision when they still had Alex Smith, the game-managing quarterback, on the team currently, right, last year. Well, this offseason, they trade Alex Smith to the Redskins, and there was kind of a lot of hesitation there as far as, okay, is Mahomes ready? Because in the preseason, he didn't look that good. But obviously in the preseason, you're not giving him the full playbook. Everything is kind of dummied down, very vanilla. You don't really want to give away too much for the regular season. So I think there were a lot of questions going into that week one game for the Chiefs against the San Diego Chargers, and they came out and completely lit it up. So I want to first give a lot of credit to Andy Reid. Secondly, it's great that Patrick Mahomes is putting up, he leads the league with 10 touchdown passes so far, all the stats, all that he's basically playing Madden. But the stat that I look at the most is 0 interceptions.
yeah, no, that's impressive.
Right? I don't care if he had 10 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns. The fact that he has not turned the ball over and he's making good decisions, to me, is the most critical factor in showing that he is ready to be the quarterback and lead this team. Because, I don't care how many touchdowns you throw, but if you throw more interceptions or if you continuously turn the ball over, eventually you're going to lose your job. So, whether you have to take a sack, throw the ball away, whatever you have to do to not turn the ball over, I think he has done that tremendously. And I'm not going to sit here and, give him the MVP or give him the crown or anything like that. But I think so far he has exceeded expectations. And I think he's only going to continue to grow.
Can you look up who the Chiefs played this week? I just want to see what their next match.
They are home against the 49ers. So that
okay, so not the easiest matchup, but when Kansas City plays at home, it's going to be tough. And that 49ers defense isn't that good. So
they're middle of the pack.
Yeah, middle, exactly. They're getting better. It's young.
He should be able to, in a sense, they should be able to put
definitely be disappointing if they lose to the
30
49ers.
points.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining about them beating the 49ers. I'll tell you that right now. So the Chiefs look really good. Patty Mahomes, to me, he has it's an old school arm. The guy's arm is unbelievable. And I think that's something that's in some ways lost in the NFL nowadays. These quarterbacks with really, really good arms. You got like John Elway arm, where you have this combination of him and Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek Hill's one of the fastest guys in the league, and he runs past everybody, and you have Mahomes literally throwing it 70 yards over everybody's head.
The cheetah.
Well, that's something you don't see a lot. And then you have Kareem Hunt in the backfield. The offense, my only problem with them is that the defense, when they get into the playoffs, because they probably will get in the playoffs. I mean, the AFC West is solid. Denver's a little better than I thought, and the Chargers are a good team. Raiders, don't know about them, but they can win some games. It's just when they get to the playoffs, it's if this defense can actually hold up. And I just think this offense is going to be kind of wasted. Reminds me of these Baylor, TCU in college football. I hate to always use those schools, but those were the schools that were scoring 60 points and never getting into the playoff because everyone was like, well, you guys' defenses suck. So that's why, we'll see what happens with the Chiefs, but very interesting to see how good Patty Mahomes has been so far.
One last thing on Mahomes. I'm looking at the stats. Listen to some of these. Travis Kelce, 7 receptions, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sammy Watkins, 6 receptions, 100 yards. Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions, 90 yards, 1 touchdown. And one of the more impressive stats is that he threw touchdowns to 5 different receivers. So he's spreading the ball around. It's not like he's sitting here and saying, I'm only going to target one guy, and the defense can load up on that one person.
You're telling me the Chiefs are throwing the receivers now?
Oh, the Chiefs are throwing the receivers. They don't have Alex Smith. Alex Smith can continue to throw to tight ends in Washington.
Oh, he's been throwing to Chris Thompson every play. Washington.
Our man Patrick Mahomes is spreading the ball around very, very nicely. Even Kareem Hunt, the running back, caught a touchdown pass. So he is spreading the ball around, and that only makes it harder on opposing defenses to key in on who Mahomes is going to go to.
I love it. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back. We're going to move to college football, and then we'll come back. We're going to talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick, and we're going to predict some of the games and look at some of the games this weekend, including a big return at quarterback for one of the teams in the NFL. So that's further down the road. Coming up next, college football talk, big LSU Auburn game we're going to discuss on the other side of this quick break.
JT Daniels, the quarterback for USC right now, he's a baby. He's completing 55% of his throws. He is super talented. He's a long ball thrower. But he locks on to one receiver. They have not created a highly creative offense for him. It is very pedestrian. It is very predictable. And I don't think, Tom Herman's getting a lot of heat. If USC goes 1-2, Lynn Swann's going to have a decision to make, and it's not a decision Clay Helton's going to like.
Wisconsin trying to tie. Rafael Gaglione. Gaglione.
And the big story in this game, guys, BYU's defense held Jonathan Taylor to just 117 rushing yards, no touchdowns, no explosive plays.
This loss snapped at one of the more impressive streaks in FBS. Wisconsin had won 41 straight home games versus non-conference teams, 10 longer than any other active streak. That streak has been snapped, and Bama now leads the way with 31 straight.
Win it for LSU. Kick on the way, and it is dead center. And the 13-game home winning streak for the Tigers has ended.
Cover 2 podcast live here on OC Rock Radio. Back with our second segment, jumping to college football, Week 3 edition with some big matchups. LSU Auburn. We had a big upset in the Big Ten.
Yes.
And then a couple other games we're going to get into a little later, but I know Nick definitely watched the majority of this game and wants to jump right into it. LSU upsets Auburn in Auburn 22-21 on a late game-winning field goal by LSU. Nick, give me your thoughts. I know this was a great game. It's SEC. Yes. This is exactly what you want to see. It's not a 60-65 game, but you had a decent amount of offense and great defenses. Tell me about the game.
Jay, this was old school SEC football. Lots of defense, and going into this game, you knew both these defenses were going to be good. Auburn obviously beat Washington, didn't let them score a lot. LSU has upset some teams this year, played well, so it was going to be a knock 'em out, bang 'em out brawl in this game, and it ended up being exactly that. The game was close the whole time. Both teams kind of tried to take over the possession of the ball for a long time. It seemed like an NFL game at points, the way they ran their plays. The most impressive thing, and this is one of the reasons LSU ended up winning this game, and to be honest, upsetting Auburn, because I think Auburn's still the better team. Joe Burrow, the Ohio State transfer quarterback for LSU, decided to throw the ball a lot more than he wanted to, and he was very successful when he did. I don't know if you want to pull up the stats or anything like that, but I don't think he had many turnovers in the game. I didn't watch the whole game intently. What was the hand motion?
0 turnovers.
Zero, exactly. So 0 turnovers in the game. A great game for him. He, in my opinion, won the game along with the defense for LSU. And you know what? It was good because it was good for college football because obviously we're looking at this year. Clemson looks like they're probably going to run through most of the ACC. There might be a couple top matchups there with Virginia Tech and stuff like that. But nonetheless, Clemson looks like they're going to be in that Final Four picture. Ohio State looks good, and they get Urban Meyer back as their head coach. Georgia looks good. Alabama, of course, though. The main team. They look like probably the best team in college football. And these two opponents, LSU and Auburn, 100% play them every single year because they're in their same division in the SEC. So going into this game, LSU being number 12, Auburn being number 7, I said, well, let's have LSU win this game, but that means 2 giant Alabama games later this year. And both these teams showed that. Both these teams are legit. Like I said, I still think Auburn's a better team, but LSU gets the win. Both these games against Alabama, which is really what you look for. You have this matchup. It's almost like a precursor to the Alabama games. This matchup's good. But I think both these games against Alabama, both these teams serve as a very big test for Alabama to possibly be that second or only SEC team in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that I take away from this game. It was obviously very close. No one got blown out.
Exactly.
Fortunately for LSU, they were able to get that late field goal and win the game. But for me, this sets up even bigger games later on in the season, like you mentioned, against Alabama. Both LSU and Auburn are going to be right there in the SEC for those championship games. So, no, I think this is a great matchup. This game could have gone either way, right? Obviously, LSU misses that field goal and has one less catch. Auburn's winning this game at home. So I think both of these teams are right there. LSU starting off the year, I think they were ranked 25th or even not ranked at all, right?
Yeah, 25th.
And now they jumped up to number 6, and Auburn is still in the top 10. So the SEC is looking very, very strong with Alabama, LSU, and Auburn.
And then Georgia, of course.
And then Georgia as well. How can we forget Georgia?
That's exactly.
Georgia's just kind of been like sliding by.
Well, to be honest, they're in the easier division in
Right.
the SEC. You look at there's a lot of it happens in the Big Ten too. There's the division with Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, and then Ohio State. They all play each other every year. And then there's that division where one team we're going to talk about, Wisconsin, usually ended up doing well, but we'll get to them in a second. They ended up falling this last week, but nonetheless, you're right. But this is why this game is big, because these two teams will play Alabama, 100%. And now it serves as a test because LSU proved they are somewhat legit this year and can serve as a test if they can just take care of the ball, no turnovers like you mentioned, and run that clock out against a good Alabama team.
Right, the one thing that I am a little skeptical about as far as Joe Burrow goes is he was 15 for 34, so he was less than 50% throwing the ball.
But remember, he doesn't throw the ball a lot. So if you look at the yards, I think he had 200-something yards,
249.
Right? So pretty good for 15 throws.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
He had one long reception, I believe, a 71-yard touchdown pass to Dylan, one of their receivers. So that gave a big chunk right
That's
there.
A good point.
But
very good point.
I would like to see, if you're attempting 34 passes, I would like to see the completions in the mid to high 20s.
No, you're right. And the way
opposed to the teens.
And the way you're going to win a game against Alabama too is running the ball, probably, right? If you can control the clock, if you can run the ball down the throat, then you open up the chance for a 71-yard touchdown pass.
Right.
So LSU, like I said, it proved that they were somewhat legit. I'm not ready to say here LSU is going to be in the Final Four, but they definitely make it interesting for the rest of college football, specifically in the SEC, because they can serve as that major test to Alabama and possibly get an upset there. So
I agree.
Now, where do you see Auburn going from this? I don't see them dropping too far down. Now, there probably is the rankings for this week. I haven't checked them, just because a lot of times I don't really pay attention to them much until the college football playoff comes out.
Auburn fell 2 spots. They went to number 9.
Okay,
so
that's exactly what should have happened.
They deserve to stay in the top 10. Like we said, this was not a blowout game. It was a very, very close game. So yes, I feel that ranking that they have right now, number 9, is good for them and perfect. And it's not like they're falling 5 or 6 spots out of the top 10 or anything like that.
No, exactly. And Auburn's a great team. They have a good quarterback in Stidham. He just turned the ball over a little too much in the game. He made his mistakes, but that defense is still great for them. They can still run the ball. So overall, good game for both. Both teams come out looking good, and LSU obviously looking better, going on the road and stuff like that, and winning the game. So I'm definitely excited for that.
Auburn. Just very quickly, they kind of did start their SEC schedule with playing LSU last week. They're at home against Arkansas this week, at home against Southern Mississippi the following week. And then in 3 weeks, they are away at Mississippi State. So I think that'll be their next major test. I think they'll be able to handle Arkansas.
Texas A&M's in that division, too.
And Southern Mississippi in the next 2 weeks. And then at Mississippi State will I think, be their next major test.
Now, let's check. I want to check LSU. Who is LSU? Because I know they play Alabama a little earlier in the year, too. So that game is probably coming up somewhat soon.
Yeah, so LSU gets Louisiana Tech, which should be a easy win. They get the next 2 games at home, also against Mississippi, against Ole Miss. Then they go to Florida, and then they're home against number 2 Georgia.
Oh man, they had to play Georgia this year too.
But they get them at home. They get them at home in LSU. So I think that's a big.
Even if they lose to Georgia, that doesn't mean that they are a bad team either.
Right.
So they want to. If you're LSU, you want to put on the same performance. And even if you don't win that game against Georgia, you want to show it that, hey, our defense is good. We can run the ball. Georgia's just the better team, because I think Georgia is the better team.
LSU's schedule will be determined in the heart of the season when they are home against Georgia, they're home against Mississippi State, and home against Alabama.
And they got Florida right before
three
that, too.
games in a row at home against those tough opponents. So that 3-game stretch
Helps.
right there, they're very, very fortunate to get those games at home, but that will decide their college football fate right there.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on the record right now. They win those 3 games, they're in the college football playoff. I'm not saying if they lose one, they're not. But depending on how the game goes, whether it's a close game or a blowout, those 3 games are really going to define their season right there.
I'm getting excited about these games later. We're looking at it. We're going to have some big, those big 12:30 CBS games coming up. More of those, of course. But we'll move on right now. We'll move on to a little more legitimate upsets. We called the LSU upset over Auburn upset, but that's 2 good teams playing and fighting over each other. Here are 2 upsets that happened, and we'll acknowledge this one first because I think this is more of a major disappointment from a team. San Diego State beating ASU. That shouldn't have happened. ASU looked really good in their first game, and then I put them over against Michigan State because they beat Michigan State on a winning field goal, and then they lose to San Diego State. Maybe this is an indictment against Michigan State too, and this is where if you're the college football committee and you're looking at Michigan State, you say, well, that ASU team to beat them didn't end up being as good as we thought. So we'll look at that. Your thoughts real quick on ASU just kind of blowing it in this game?
This was such a lopsided game, not in the score, but in the stats. I'm just looking at it right now. Wilkins, Arizona State starting quarterback, throws for 341 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. But guess what? They only rushed the ball for a total of 36 yards.
Okay.
So,
well, that's
Arizona State...
How many... Oh, well, look how much San Diego State rushed.
I was getting to that.
Okay,
I was getting to
yeah.
that. That is the flip side to where San Diego State only passed for 129 yards, but they have... This has to be somewhat of a record. 311 rushing yards.
Wow.
I mean, they literally said, we're going to line up and run the ball down
on.
your throat, and ASU could do literally nothing about it. They attempted 58 rushes for 311 yards and 2 total touchdowns. That right there is amazing. I mean, you have to give all the credit to San Diego State.
Good for San Diego State.
Arizona State, I think, was feeling themselves a little too much after beating Michigan State at home. That was a great win for them. But then they're like, okay, we get San Diego State, a lesser opponent. It's on the road in San Diego, but still, the fact that they came out and lost the way they did, that's not a good sign for Arizona State.
Well, you know what? Okay, yeah, I'll give ASU some credit here. They did have to play in Qualcomm Stadium this last weekend, okay? And I've been to Qualcomm Stadium, and it's I want to say one word, but I'm not going to say it. But it's a terrible place to play, okay? And the locker room is probably dingy, and the locker rooms are tight, and the guys' backs might have been not ready to go. So you never know. But going to San Diego State, there's more to offer than sunshine and beaches. That stadium is terrible. The locker rooms suck, and there's pipes all over the place, and it's leakage. So it's that might like we're talking about. They go into a huge game against Michigan State at home, and then they have to play in a dingy, way too big of a stadium in San Diego for what San Diego's fan base is, and they disappoint. So that can happen to any team. Unfortunately, it happened to a Pac-12 team. Obviously, we're Pac-12 guys. But ASU, not as legit as we thought, because you can't be losing to San Diego State. All right, the bigger game, though. The bigger upset. BYU defeating Wisconsin. Now, this is a huge win for Ohio State, because now you're looking at, if you're Ohio State, and you're looking at, because that one big test might have been Wisconsin at the end of the year, because I think Ohio State this year, they'll play Michigan State like we said, but Michigan State lost, they lost to ASU, so they're probably not that good. Penn State doesn't look as good as they did last year. No Saquon Barkley. And then Michigan, they're a little overrated and stuff like that every single year too. So is this Ohio State's schedule you have pulled up right here?
This is Wisconsin's schedule.
Okay,
but they do not play Ohio State.
Well, of course they don't, because and we've talked about that their scheduling isn't good. So for them to lose, they essentially just got eliminated from the Final Four unless they somehow beat Ohio State.
No, they're done.
Well, no, but if they go whatever 11-1 and then beat Ohio State, there's that, or whoever makes it. But you're right. The chances of them making it now suck because they lost to a 35-year-old quarterback here at BYU, and so, literally the guy's 25 years old. I mean, the guy's old as hell. I think he did his Mormon mission, and he's like in his 5th year red shirt too. So the guy's been there for a while. But Huge loss for Wisconsin, but very good for if you're an Ohio State fan.
Yeah, for Wisconsin, just really quick, the reason why I think they are completely done from the college football playoff, they only have, as of today, games against 2 ranked opponents left on their schedule.
Terrible.
At Michigan in 3 weeks, and then later on, 3 games before the season's end, at Penn State. So obviously things could change as far as other teams getting in and out of the top 25. It doesn't look like it, though. Minnesota would be...
Is that game at Michigan?
Yes, that game is at Michigan.
See, that's probably
and then at Penn State as well. So both of those, the next biggest games are on the road. And yeah, Wisconsin to me, they're just...
Sorry, Badgers, you guys
they're not good enough, man. They need to schedule a harder... I'm looking at it right now, and I know we already talked about it. Western Kentucky, New Mexico... You lose
No,
BYU.
that's horrendous. I mean, they shouldn't even made the Final Four anyways, even if they went undefeated and lost 1 game.
They're on the road this week at Iowa, a 5:30 p.m. start. So that'll be more like 7:30, 8:30, really. And we all know that Iowa night games,
it's tough.
They're really, really tough. Then they get Nebraska, then Michigan. This Wisconsin team, to me, they're not legit, and there's no chance that they get in. You're right. This does help Ohio State, even though Ohio State is 3-0. They get Urban Meyer back. Really, I think Ohio State is...
Well, they just beat the big TCU team, too.
They did. This Ohio State is the class of the entire Big Ten right now. Penn State, you could say they're kind of right there. But really, the Big Ten, I think, took a big hit last week as far as some of the teams go.
No, yeah, true, because we've already seen Michigan kind of screw up against Notre Dame. Penn State looked terrible against Appalachian State. Michigan State lost to ASU. Wisconsin loses to BYU. And Ohio State, you can say the bell cow of the Big Ten, has a giant controversy behind them, and a lot of people aren't rooting for them to do well this year. So, yeah, you're right. Big Ten, we've been talking about the classic college football a lot of times, along with the SEC. Not too much this year. But if you're an Ohio State fan, good for you. Your team's probably going to end up getting to the Final Four in a pretty easy fashion. All right, Jay, we're going to get to something a little closer to home. UCLA and USC. Now, let's talk UCLA real quick because I think we can get this over with. UCLA's 0-3. They have not looked good in really any of the games they've played this season, losing to Cincinnati, their easiest opponent, getting thrashed by Oklahoma and not really even looking competitive. And then losing to Fresno State and turning the ball over a lot.
Horrible.
Not being able to stop the run either. I mean, the quarterback I think scored 3 touchdowns just right on the goal line or something like that. So I did not see the game, but it's at this point UCLA is. We'll see if they win the game.
4.
4 touchdowns for the quarterback.
Touchdowns,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. But so the biggest news coming out of this last week is that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is their freshman quarterback, their true freshman quarterback. Top prospect in college football. His dad came out LeVar Ball style and went on Twitter and called out Chip Kelly, said the play calling's terrible, my son doesn't deserve this and stuff like that. And Chip Kelly came out with a pretty respectable response, or a response you'd expect Chip Kelly to give, where he kind of said, well, guys they can say whatever they want. I love Dorian. Dorian says he loves playing with me, and so all this stuff. Is Chip Kelly, does it look like maybe the wrong fit for UCLA right now, or is this just the fact that they're playing like 23 freshmen?
Yeah, no, I think I'm not going to sit here and say it's the wrong fit. There's a lot of things that change when you have a change in your head coaching staff, right? First of all, you have new coaches.
All of it, too.
All of it, new coaches. Yeah. To mix that with freshman players, that is almost a recipe for disaster. The fact that Chip Kelly brings a spread offense and a very quick up-tempo offense that doesn't really huddle. He likes to go fast and even faster, and some of these guys aren't used to doing that. So this was going to be an adjustment period. There are going to be a lot of growing pains, and I'm not saying that I saw UCLA starting off 0-3, but I saw them going, 1-2 or potentially 2-1 and looking somewhat ugly.
Yeah, Fresno State's a solid team too, and I'm okay with this loss if it would have been close, but 24 points, giving up 4 touchdowns to the quarterback, that just stuff can't happen. I mean, Chip Kelly's not a defensive guru, and they're giving up 38 points to Fresno State, so what's going on?
Right. I think the problem here is Chip Kelly, it's going to take multiple years, probably 2 years, in order to get the players that he wants. Because let's all remember, especially in college athletics, when a coach takes over, even in the pros, it really doesn't matter. When a coach takes over a program, that first year, it's not really those coaches' players. It's left over the coaches' players from before, right? So these guys that are playing right now for Chip Kelly might not necessarily be the guys that Chip Kelly wants.
Well,
but
even the freshmen, too.
Right, but
yeah.
he has to play them because this is what he has. So next offseason, when he gets to recruit, I think he'll bring in a handful of guys that he wants. And then the season after that, I think he'll be able to recruit more guys of his caliber and the style of play that he wants. So this is definitely going to be a growing process. And if you're a UCLA fan or if you're anything like that, if you follow UCLA, patience is the word that I'm going to use, because I don't think this team will be relevant for at least 2 years.
Well, yeah, and you
could
look
be longer.
Exactly. You mentioned a good point about the recruiting, and the fact that they're playing freshmen. These guys are getting experience against an Oklahoma at Oklahoma. They're going to get Washington next week at home in the Rose Bowl. They'll eventually play USC and Stanford and all these other teams too. So these freshmen are going to get these big game looks. Which will help in 2 or 3 years down the road when they're juniors and they're not eligible for the NFL yet. You're going to have those guys in the Chip Kelly recruits, and that's where you, like you said, where you look at for this team to make it turn around. But right now, not playing good. Let's move on to USC though. USC, in the upper echelon in recruiting every single year. They're recruiting with Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, all the big schools. You hear big school, USC's up there in recruiting. But USC has been thrashed by Texas and Stanford the last 2 weeks. Jared, I've asked this question, I think, a couple times on this podcast. Is Clay Helton now on the hot seat?
Yes, he is. He has to be. And for this USC team, with all the talent that they had, starting off the season ranked number 15th in the nation, which I feel is well-deserved for them. They didn't deserve to be in the top 10, but it was like, okay, let's put them at 15 and see
Hey,
if they do.
exactly,
Right?
yeah.
They have a respectable schedule, nothing that was, in my opinion, too difficult to overcome. And they come out, and you're starting a true freshman quarterback, right, in JT Daniels. And he actually, from numbers-wise, he had a respectable game. 30-48, 322 yards. He did throw an interception. Two things that I want to focus on, specifically with this Texas game before we go any further. Guess how many rushing yards they had?
I can't see.
I don't want you to see. I want you to just literally guess.
I'm going to go 50.
-5
Wait a minute. No way.
total rushing yards.
No way.
-5. They had 16 rushing attempts. And
come on, man.
So what happens is when a quarterback gets sacked, that goes to the rushing yards, not the passing.
Exactly.
So because JT Daniels got sacked 3 times for a loss of 26 yards, they actually ended up with a negative stat in the total.
That's pathetic. Like, I thought the Cardinals played bad this weekend, but that stat almost is worse than anything I saw like in any other game.
Yeah,
the fact that you had minus against a Texas team that isn't even ranked.
Right.
How does that, like, that's so bad. This is, and it's not JT Daniels' fault. I honestly don't think he should be playing right now because I think they're going to ruin the kid unless they get a new coaching staff in here. Because I think Clay Helton, the last couple of years, and I've been listening to a lot of local radio, and these guys have been tearing apart USC. Even more than UCLA, because UCLA has somewhat of an excuse. A brand new coach, a brand new system, lots of freshmen playing, stuff like that. The toughest schedule in America, literally. USC, though, they've escaped, at least the coaching staff has escaped with having Mr. Sam Darnold as their quarterback. And even last year, they got beat, they barely beat Texas, and they got embarrassed by Notre Dame. And so, I don't know, man. This is, it's not looking good for USC, and I think this is the final year for Clay Helton, unless they turned around right now and somehow get to the Rose Bowl or something like that. Because you still could. They have one loss against Stanford, but that's not too bad. And if they were to kind of sweep through the rest of the opponents, does USC play Washington real quick this year?
USC does not play Washington.
So that's
they play
where
Washington State.
Yeah, that's where their saving grace could be, because they probably can beat ASU. They will beat UCLA. They probably could beat Colorado. Utah will be a tough game, but it's winnable. So unless they get to the Rose Bowl, man, I think Clay Helton's done. I think he's out of there. I've heard, like I said, I've been listening to a lot of local radio, and they've been giving a lot of good information to me. that Clay Helton has kind of brought on his friends and colleagues to be coaches and not necessarily the right fits. And they haven't been running the ball. And that's what USC's forte has been. I know they lost their starting running back in Raul Jones to the NFL.
Yeah, but they have a good nucleus. Stephen Carr
No, exactly.
was like a consensus
But they're not running the
All-American this
ball.
year.
They're not running the ball. So it's you have great running backs. And look, they're not. I mean, look, we'll go back to those stats real quick in that game. And how many times did they even run the ball, period, in the game to get those
16 total carries.
Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. So that's how you get minus 5 yards, by not running the ball. So they're having a true freshman quarterback that is literally used to a star-studded modern-day team. It's just wide-open guys all the time, killing other high school teams.
Well, he is throwing to his high school teammate, St. Brown.
Well, no,
that's,
I know.
That's like the one and only saving grace for this
100%.
team.
But so you have this quarterback that's not used to failure, literally. The modern day wins like every single game every year. And then you're not running the ball. And you're putting it all in the hands of a true freshman. This is a worse case than UCLA. Because at least Dorian Thompson-Robinson is getting used to his system. And he's young. And he doesn't have a lot of talent around him and stuff like that. But, man, this is going to be tough for USC. They have to win some of these big games. They pretty much have to win every game for the rest of the season. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
And their schedule, while they only have
play
one
Notre Dame, for
ranked
sure.
opponent, that Notre Dame at the very end of the year, does not bode well for them. Listen, they're not going to make the college football playoff. We know that. But that's their only other ranked opponent is Notre Dame. So that doesn't necessarily help them as far as strength of schedule goes. Now, you're right. They can still make the Pac-12 championship. They need to turn things around drastically, and that starts this week when they're at home against Washington State.
You got to beat Washington.
Right, but they're now into their Pac-12 schedule where the rest of their games this season are against Pac-12 opponents with the exception of that final game against them.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, obviously, you want to play a good performance against, but at this point in the year, you just don't want to get embarrassed like you did last year because you need to win the Pac-12 games. That's what's important now. Try to get to the Rose Bowl. But if not, I know, USC, Clay Helton's in trouble because he's looking like a fraud right now. He's looking like Sam Darnold did all of it the last 2 years.
Talk about someone on the hot seat.
Oh, even more than like the guys we've been talking about the rest of this podcast. But all right, so we need to move on. The rest of this podcast, we are going to go to Do You Care on the other side of the break. But remember, after Do You Care, more of the NFL talk. Fitzpatrick, a returning quarterback in the NFL, and we'll predict some of the big games in the NFL coming up. That's after Do You Care? But coming up next, our favorite game, Do You Care? Here on the Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio.
And here are the judges' scoring totals. Glenn Feldman scores this bout even, 114-114. Judge Dave Moretti and Steve Weisfeld have it 115-113. Your winner by majority decision and new WBC WBO Audio Ring Magazine middleweight champion, Saul Canelo.
You've seen anything like that in your NFL
Never
career?
have seen it ever. Pop Warner, high school, college, pros, never heard of it, never seen it. And it's just completely disrespectful to his teammates.
Did he say anything to you as a
Did
veteran?
he say anybody did?
He didn't say nothing to nobody.
You left?
When did you
Yeah,
find out?
you know as much as I know. I found out going in the second half of the game. Coming out, they said he's not coming out, he retired.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out. Ottavino to Taylor, and a high fly ball to left. The Dodgers are going to win it on a walk-off by Chris Taylor. 3-2, and the Dodgers lead the Rockies by a game and a half with 10 to play. Taylor, the walk-off winner.
We are back here on the Cover 2 podcast. Once again, I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And, Jared, guess what time it is right now?
What time is it, Nick?
It's time for Do You Care? Our favorite game here on the podcast. Do you care if you don't know what it is? Pretty much we ask each other whether we care about a topic or not, and we tell you if we care or not. And then we explain a little bit after, and it's kind of an excuse to get away from the normal sports that we're talking about on the podcast, mainly football, and move away from that just a little tiny bit and talk about what's going on in the rest of the sports world. So, Jared, like usual, you are going to get the first question. Jared,
Yes, sir.
do you care that North and South Korea want to bid for the 2032 Summer Olympics?
I don't care, and I do care about the Olympics a lot. It's just it's so far away. Like we're in 2018, 2032,
and we get the Olympics in
years.
2028.
We do. The one thing I will say that I think is interesting is that a lot of countries are kind of coming and joining together. Right? We have the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, kind of all three joining in on our Olympics when we get it. Even though the U.S. will be hosting the majority
they got like
of the Olympic Games,
of it, yeah.
right? But to have North and South Korea also kind of joining together to host the Olympics, I think we could potentially see that more of countries coming together to join for Olympics
exactly
not as much of a monetary pressure because I think it is a lot of money whether you have the infrastructure already or whether you have to build in order to get the Olympics to come to you. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of pressure, and when the Olympics is gone at the end of the day, you want to be up monetarily and not have spent millions and or billions of dollars that you will not get back. So I think that's one of the main reasons why countries are coming together and joining in these Olympics. Nick, do you care that the Dodgers are back in first place in the NL West?
Yes, I do, Jared. Yes, I do. The Dodgers, ever since I forget what series they lost, but they lost a series to a pretty bad team, and everyone was saying, oh, man, they're down in the dirt, man. They're way behind Colorado. They're way behind Arizona. And since that point, in big games against playoff opponents, they've gone 10-3, including the last 6 games have been against St. Louis, who is leading them in the wild card for the second wild card, and then the Colorado Rockies, who were leading them in for the NL West. And so far, through Tuesday night, they have gone 5-1 against both the Cardinals and Rockies, and they are now 1.5 games up of the Rockies for the NL West, with 10 games to play. With one more game to play against Colorado, or actually, 2 more games to play against Colorado. And they are also ahead, or I believe at least tied with St. Louis for the wild card right now. So the Dodgers are in business. They're starting to hit their stride. They're winning the big games, which is really all that matters, right? They did lose a series to the Cincinnati Reds. They did lose the series, like I mentioned earlier in the year, right before this big streak happened where they went 10-3 against good teams. It's good for the Dodgers, and it's obviously good here for the LA fan base. The Rockies, unfortunately, just lost Trevor Story to a UCL injury, a very similar injury that Corey Seager is out with. It's possible Tommy John surgery for a shortstop. Happens to a lot of those guys, but they have to throw the ball hard over from the shortstop position. And unfortunately, they're dealing with that injury. Nolan Arenado's arm hasn't been the same, so the Rockies are kind of falling off the wagon a little bit because, hey, if they keep falling further, Milwaukee looks like they're probably going to be in the wild card game no matter what. And St. Louis is tough. The Rockies might end up just falling completely back out of the playoffs if they don't figure it out. They still have a good pitching staff, but nonetheless, interesting here in the NL playoffs. Boston's about to clinch. Yankees, A's, Cleveland, and Houston they're set in the AL. The NL isn't set as much. Chicago's probably going to win the Central. Atlanta's probably going to win the East. And then we'll see who ends up being in the wild card between the Rockies, Cardinals, Brewers, and then Dodgers. The Dodgers will fall some games. So, we'll see. But they get the Padres after this series, so we'll see if they fall back again. Jared, do you care that Dwayne Wade is going back for what he says is one final time with the Miami Heat?
I do care. Flash, as everyone calls him. Going into his 16th NBA season, Dwayne Wade coming out of Marquette, one of the most accomplished, not only basketball players, but Miami Heat players of all time. He leads the Heat organization in points, assists, steals, and games played. I mean, he's a legend for Miami. Obviously, he had a 1-year stint in Chicago where he's from, so he went back there and played with them for a year. And then half of last year, he signed on and played with the Cavaliers for the first part of the season, and then they traded him back to Miami. So Miami is where we all know and love Dwayne Wade. It just makes sense. He was weighing his options all offseason, decided that he wanted to give it one more go, even though it doesn't seem like Miami is necessarily a championship contender. He feels that he owes Miami one more opportunity to play, and himself as well. So I'm happy that he's playing. He gets kind of a one last final send-off in a sense. Not comparing him to Kobe or anything like that, but like at least teams and players and fans will get the opportunity to send Dwayne out the right way, and hopefully he can stay healthy for the year and have a good season. So yes, I do care. Happy to see Dwayne Wade back for one final year. Nick, do you care, sticking with the NBA, that the 76ers promoted Elton Brand to general manager?
No, I don't really care because it is interesting that Elton Brand is now the GM, because you look at what Philadelphia's been doing, and it's kind of been like an analytics-based stuff, a lot of draft picks. And Elton Brand at least seems like he was, I believe, the president of basketball operations, but he doesn't seem like that analytics guy. He's a former basketball player. And so we'll see how he does in the GM role. I don't think he can do bad because they have so much talent on this team, and they don't really need to draft guys anymore because they're probably going to be in the playoffs and possibly in the finals one of these years. But it's good for him. Elton Brand, obviously a Los Angeles Clipper for a long time, was a Philadelphia 76er before that and after that. And so, good for him. I'm glad he's getting the GM role. It's always nice to see basketball players end up getting in these big roles. We see Magic Johnson in a big role with the Lakers, and so it's it's cool, but I don't really care about it. Philadelphia 76ers, I don't care much about. Jared, this is a great question. I'm gonna phrase this so you can explain what happened too. Jared, do you care that Vontae Davis didn't play the second half against the for the Buffalo Bills this last weekend?
Didn't play the second half is a very interesting way of putting this. And we'll try to keep this one short because this is Do You Care? Vontae Davis, a longtime NFL player, cornerback in the NFL, has played for multiple teams, most recently the Indianapolis Colts before signing on with the Buffalo Bills, decided at halftime this past Sunday of the game against the Chargers at home in Buffalo that he was going to retire and not come back out on the field. Nick, I've played football. High school and then a little bit in junior college. Never on the professional level. Played multiple other sports as well. I have never, in my 28 years of living, ever in any sport heard of a player retiring and essentially quitting on his teammates at halftime of a game. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, listen.
But in the NFL,
we're in the beginning of the season right now, okay? This is week 2. All right, it's not like this is week 14 where you're dealing with some ailing injuries and you're kind of hurt and banged up and it's like, man, I'm getting kind of old. I don't know if I want to do this, but I only got a couple games left. Like, you went through all of training camp and the first 2 games of the preseason, or of the regular season. I mean, the first quarter, he made a tackle against one of the Chargers running backs and stopped him and forced a 4th down. And he was like super happy. He got up and high-fived his teammates and he was all happy and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the second half, he doesn't come out. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is, I can't fault Vontae Davis for retiring because, listen, no one knows your own body like you do, right? Exactly. And especially for him, like, no one can tell him technically when to play and when not to play. But if you had the thoughts of retirement and all this stuff, why would you not either retire before the season started or before training camp, or at least wait till after the game? You have to do it in the middle of the game. Man. Like when you guys are making adjustments to go back onto the field to try to win a football game, and you decide to retire on your teammates right then and there. It's ridiculous. I think it is completely the wrong way to handle it. He came out with a statement thanking his teammates and coaches and fans and blah, 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 blah. But I think it was completely the wrong way to handle it. And like I said, I've never seen that in my entire life. I don't think we will ever see anything
real quick. So I had some of my cousins come down to watch some football this weekend. Mainly my brother played high school, but we also wanted to watch the NFL together. Because a lot of times I'll go up to his house in L.A. And so when he heard this story, because we heard this in live time, like we were like, oh, Vontae Davis retired. Like it happened like while we were watching the games. And he told me a story of how there was a dude, and I've met this guy before. There was a dude that played for his high school football team in Arizona that ended up quitting in their preseason scrimmage, like their 1-game scrimmage. And it was due to him not playing quarterback, and he wasn't very good, and he was, he's kind of an idiot and didn't know his role in the team. But that was and that kind of made sense because it was the preseason. It was a guy who was kind of in over his head. He wasn't a very good football player anyways, and he ended up leaving, mainly because his parents were involved too. But like this is the NFL. How in the hell does this happen? Like, it's almost like you said, because he made the tackle, and I think 2 weeks prior, before the preseason, he's like, ready for a new season, guys, and like posted this big Instagram thing, right? Or this big Twitter thing. It's almost like he got kind of connected with the mob or something, like in Buffalo, and they told him, like, you remember that scene in The Longest Yard where the warden tells Adam Sandler he can't play? Or he's like, that's actually what this reminded me of. Like, this guy all of a sudden just was like told you cannot play anymore, or you're something. So I don't know, very, very bizarre. But I'll let you ask the final question.
Yeah, I will. Nick, final question. This is a big one. Do you care that Canelo beat Triple G in the rematch in a controversial rematch?
Well, I mean, of course it's controversial. I mean, Canelo with the steroid allegations, with the fake meat, all that stuff. There wasn't much hype to go into this fight. It's one of the reasons we didn't talk about it last week because I knew I was going to miss the game too. I was going to miss the fight too, so I wasn't too hyped on it. But nonetheless, when I looked it over, I watched some of the highlights, stuff like that. Canelo, it could have gone either way, but I mean, dude, Jared, this is boxing. They tie the first time. The what I would like to call the underdog wins the second fight. Now, Triple G has now officially lost a fight, so there's no more of that undefeated streak. And now you set up for the trilogy, right? And then you see who the real winner is, and maybe they give it to Triple G and stuff like that. But I would expect one more fight from this, just because Triple G put on a good performance. The scorecard from the referees, one of them actually had a tie, and luckily the other referees in this case, the scorecard people had both Canelo winning by 1 round. So this was really close to having another tie. But you never know with boxing. You never know what's legit and what's not legit. This was pretty predictable in a way that you could have the underdog win. You set up for the third fight, more money for everybody. Hopefully they kind of boost up the ratings. Real quick, is this an excuse also? Over the weekend, Floyd Mayweather said that he wanted to come out of retirement face Manny Pacquiao.
Come on.
Because now Manny Pacquiao's not very good. It's typical Floyd.
Come on.
Fans, let's not give Floyd Mayweather more money for no reason. Although I probably will watch the fight, I will pirate it and not actually pay the dude. But nonetheless, he did say this, so whatever he does, I'm still waiting for his MMA career to jump off, because he talked all that crap to Conor McGregor.
How old is Floyd Mayweather?
40? He's in his 40s somewhere.
Come on, man.
And he's 50-0.
Come on, man.
I know. And he's 50-0. Why do you want to ruin that?
How much more money do you need? Right? You got your private jet. You're traveling all over the world, right? You have everything you need, man. You got your team. You got your clothing.
But he's kind of,
right,
you know
like,
what it is?
on,
He's becoming irrelevant. And people are forgetting about it.
Hey, listen, so find another way to be relevant. Look at Kobe Bryant. Look at Michael Jordan. Look at all these other athletes who, after their playing careers, have decided to do great things, whether they became coaches or started their own businesses or whatever. It's like, you don't need to continue to play a sport.
Yeah, he should coach a young and up-and-coming fighter.
Right,
That's what he really
become a trainer. Do something else, man. If you really want to keep your name in the spotlight, there's other things you can do besides having to get into the ring or into the MMA ring and try to fight and get yourself knocked out at 40.
Although they would be great if Manny Pacquiao knocked him out, right? But it's just not going to happen.
Man.
It's not going to happen. Because the way he fights, he's just going to defend the whole time. He doesn't really care what people think. So, nonetheless, had to mention that real quick before we moved on. All right. It's the end of Do You Care? We're going back to the NFL. Long-awaited return to the NFL here on this podcast. Like I mentioned, we're going to go through a little bit of the games this past week, with more important matchups, and then we're going to look to this next week and kind of tell you who's a fraud, who's not, and stuff like that. The Cardinals are not a fraud; they just suck. I'm just going to say that right now. But nonetheless, on the other side of the Cover 2 podcast here on OC Rock Radio, more NFL talk.
After a 1-1 start with an underwhelming Nick Foles at the helm, the Eagles were happy to announce Carson Wentz will start Sunday against the Colts. It will be the first game Wentz has played since he injured his knee back in Week 14 of last season. So what will head coach Doug Peterson's approach be? He says when it comes to Carson, he's not holding back.
Fitzpatrick going deep to Deshaun Jackson on the first play from scrimmage. The former Eagle is inside the 10 and takes it all the way 75 yards for a Buccaneers touchdown.
Wow, I can't say I was expecting that, Kenny.
Back on the show for our final segment of the day, going back with some NFL talk. We have a couple games from last week that we wanted to get into. A backup quarterback making a lot of noise, a returning quarterback in the NFC East, and then we're going to look ahead to some of the big-time matchups in Week 3. But I do want to start with those Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
And a one Ryan Fitzpatrick, who wore a very interesting post-game outfit.
What's the name they've been calling him ever since?
Fitzmagic.
Fitzmagic.
Yeah. But guess what? When you lead your team to a 2-0 start with 8 interceptions and only, 8 touchdowns and only 1 interception.
Defending champion Eagles.
Yeah. Week 1, you go into New Orleans, a team that was kind of pegged as a playoff team to begin the year, and you put up over 40 points against them. And then Week 2 at home, you beat the Super Bowl defending champions. You deserve to be talked about.
No, I mean, like, you look at this and barring Stephon Diggs making that unbelievable Hail Mary catch last year, the Buccaneers have essentially beat the 2 NFC championship teams. You know what I'm saying? If not for that catch, the Vikings obviously made it, but then the Saints really probably should have. But so, impressive. But there's one question we ask, because obviously Fitzpatrick, we'll give him all the credit he wants. Obviously the funny garb at the end of the game, the 2 wins, a couple long bombs to Deshaun Jackson, who was essentially mute in the offense. Before this, he wasn't doing much. He was overrated. But here's the real question with this. Jameis Winston, I believe, comes off suspension after this week.
Jameis
who? Back.
Jameis who?
Jameis who? You're really saying that?
Jameis who?
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so we're going to disagree a little bit on this then.
Okay. Jameis
so the real question is, though, is Jameis Winston going to get this starting job back? Now, let me clarify. I'll talk first on this matter. I do not think Jameis Winston will get the starting job back Week 4, but I think eventually down the line he will eventually get the starting job back, because I think it's a little bit like the Patrick Mahomes effect. I think this offense is running on all cylinders, but I think once the defense starts to not play as good and starts losing games for this Tampa Bay team, they're going to unfortunately blame it on Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they're going to put Winston in. Winston's the guy they've surrounded the team around. It's a guy they drafted on purpose earlier in the draft because they want him to lead the franchise. Fitzpatrick is great, went to Harvard, all that stuff. But nonetheless, Winston will eventually be the quarterback, but I don't think he will right as now. What do you think about the Fitzpatrick-Winston situation?
So as of right now, I agree. You cannot take the ball out of Ryan Fitzpatrick's hands.
After this week, who do they play this week? Can you check that real quick?
I will look that up.
Oh, they play Steelers. No, I already know. You don't even have to
Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night. So if they were, even if you lose to the Steelers necessarily, I don't think that's enough to make Fitzpatrick good. But what I'm telling you is the defense is going to screw him over, and he's going to lose him some games. And when they're, 3-3 or 4-3 after Week 7, which I think they're going to be, that's when Winston's probably going to come back in. That's at least what I think.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, deserves to have at least a 3-game cushion. So I think he deserves, at this point, 3 bad games before they put Jameis Winston back in. So let's say they lose to the Steelers on Monday night this week, and then the following week they're at Chicago, and the following week they're at Atlanta. So I think he has at least those 3 games to continue to show that he can be the starting quarterback. And then after those 3 games, I would say, okay, then we can bring Jameis Winston back. But as of right now, there's no way in heck that I'm bringing Jameis Winston back, even though this is his final suspension week. And then Week 4, he technically is allowed to be back with the team. But I'm sitting him on the bench. You're winning games with Fitzpatrick. He's not turning the ball over. He's making good decisions. He's actually finding their deep threat, Deshaun Jackson, which Jameis Winston has not been able to do for basically his entire career. I really don't see right now why you would bring Jameis Winston back. It's not like you're paying him a boatload of money. He's still on his rookie contract, so you can't sit here and say you're just wasting money, because you're not. And I really, the question mark is still out on Jameis Winston. We don't really know how great of a quarterback he can be, or if he is even a great quarterback. We all know he's a kind of a rah-rah leader guy. He wants to bring the troops together, all that, and that's great. But on the field, can you win games? And I don't know if he can. Let me just quickly go through his career record as a starter since 2015 when he entered the NFL. His rookie year, he went 6-10. They had a bad team. He was obviously the number 1 overall draft pick. 6-10 is not bad. I'm not going to sit here and
Cam Newton went 4-12
right.
his first year. Yeah.
Year 2, 2016, he goes 9-7. A big improvement, 3-game improvement. I don't think they made the playoffs that year, but still a much improved team. 2017, last year, he went 3-10.
Well, he was actually 3-10.
When he was
I'll tell you this, he was banged up a little bit because I was actually at the game where he hurt his shoulder against the Cardinals. So I'll give him, last year obviously not the best year, and Fitzpatrick came in, won some games last year too. I still think though, he's the franchise guy. Fitzpatrick is like the Nick Foles right now for the Eagles. Although, Carson Wentz is not returning from injury, or he's not returning from a suspension, he's returning from injury. It's a little different. But I think you have the Nick Foles effect. Fitzpatrick's great, but he's not the guy you're gonna lead to the Super Bowl. It's not the guy you're gonna lead to the playoffs. I think Winston is still that guy. He has better tools. And I agree with you. You look at that schedule, and I'm glad you brought that schedule up. If they lose to the Bears, there's gonna be questions. Because I think they'll lose to the Steelers this week. And then if you lose at Atlanta, that's probably when, we need to bring in Winston, right? But let's say you lose Steelers, you beat the Bears, you lose Atlanta, there's still going to be those questions where, if we can't beat the Atlanta Falcons in our own division, how good are we? Because we already beat the Eagles, we already beat the Saints, stuff like that. So I do think he's going to even have to beat the Falcons in order to keep the quarterback job. I think after week 5 is really like decision time for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All I'm telling you is I'm riding with Fitzmagic right now. Jameis Winston, you can go ahead and sit on the bench. You have not proven to me in your 3-year career so far that you deserve this starting job over Fitzpatrick right now. The only way that Jameis Winston gets back on the field is if Fitzpatrick has a meltdown and the Bucs start losing games. If they continue to win and they're consistent, I'm not saying they have to win every game. I'm not saying Ryan Fitzpatrick has to be perfect. But if they are consistently winning and they are trending upward, which it looks like they're doing right now, then Jameis Winston, you're going to be riding that bench and holding that clipboard, my man. I'm sorry. That's just how it goes.
Well, we will have to agree to disagree on that topic right there. But so they played the Philadelphia Eagles this past week. They lose Tampa Bay wins, Philadelphia loses. And then the Eagles come out and they announce Mr. Carson Wentz, MVP candidate from last season, tore his ACL against the Rams. Obviously, we know the story. The Eagles ended up winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. Jared, you're an NFC East guy. You are a Cowboys fan. What are your thoughts on Carson Wentz returning for Week 3?
This is kind of around the time that I figured Carson Wentz would be returning to the Eagles, and he needed to be medically cleared for contact in order to be able to practice at full strength with no limitations. And, I think the Eagles have done a great job with the entire rehab as far as not pushing Wentz and wanting to, make sure that he is fully healthy or as healthy as he can be before they put him out there. Now, the Eagles, I do feel that they do get a little bit of a break as they're playing the Colts this week at home. The Colts don't have a good defense, so and it is at home in Philadelphia, so he doesn't have to travel, and he goes up against a lesser opponent, at least defensively.
Well, and they play, was it look like Tennessee after that too?
Yeah, and then at Tennessee, and then Minnesota.
So that's that's probably why they brought him back.
They're warming him up for these first couple games, so that by the time in a couple weeks when they get to Minnesota, they can hopefully by then let Carson Wentz go fully. I do have a couple restraints, and if people think that Carson Wentz is going to come out and be the Carson Wentz of last year, the most people thought he was going to be the Super Bowl MVP the way he was playing, then I think people are strongly mistaken.
Look at what happened with Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has not started well. They had the same injury.
Right.
And Deshaun Watson has come out and disappointed so far. I believe they're 0-2, right?
Right.
The Texans. So, I agree with you on that. I think that he, if you're trying to pick him up in fantasy really quick, I don't know about that.
Nope.
I think they'll beat the Colts, but it's going to look, there's going to be like a trimmed down playbook probably. He probably won't be dropping back in the pocket and running all over the place and stuff like that. I think he'll...
There has to be. This Eagles offense is predicated on the RPO, and we've talked about that.
No
in the
Jay
last couple
Ajayi for
weeks,
this game,
right? No Jay Ajayi, probably no Darren Sproles either, right? So the RPO, for those who don't know, it's a run-pass option, and that's what the Eagles have kind of predicated their offense around. It really helped Nick Foles last year in leading them to the Super Bowl, and so far they've continued that same offense with Nick Foles in the first 2 weeks. The problem with that is it is literally in the name, run pass. So as the quarterback, you are looking to the defense to see what they're going to do, and you are making your adjustment off of that. Carson Wentz coming back off of a torn ACL, you don't necessarily want your franchise quarterback running the ball, right? And having to make those types of decisions. So this Eagles offense, I feel, is going to look a little bit different. Carson Wentz is a drop back passer as well. And I think he is, as well as a mobile quarterback, just as good of a throwing quarterback. So I don't think that's going to hinder him as far as his play. But if the Eagles think that they're going to sit out here and run this RPO offense with Carson Wentz, I think they have another thing coming, and I think that will be a bad sign for him. I think they need to give him a couple weeks to let that leg strengthen even more and to get his confidence going, because I don't care who you are, I don't care how great of a player you are, if you go through an injury like that, your confidence is going to be shaken a little bit. And I think until he gets hit the first time and that knee is able to hold up, I think he's going to be a little hesitant.
Yeah, no, but the good thing is they do play an easier Colts team as far as defense goes. Tennessee's defense is solid, but I think they can win that game. Best case scenario here is Wentz gets used to it, maybe takes a couple hits, and by that Week 5 big matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, who are a Super Bowl contender, they are 3-1, and they aren't looking at a 2-2, possibly 2-3 start to their Super Bowl defending season. So I agree with you on that. The run pass option will be interesting to watch. I will try to pay attention to that Eagles game this weekend, just because it'll be interesting to see if Carson Wentz can return. All right, well, before we get to kind of like looking into next week and maybe doing a little pick-em for this week's games, I want to mention the Rams looked really good again. The Vikings and Packers with the crazy tie. The Bears get a win. Seahawks didn't look very good this weekend. And Atlanta beat Carolina at home. Any other thoughts on any other games? Or were those kind of or any thoughts on those specific teams and games and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, those were the major matches. I mean, listen, we're only in week 2, right? So teams are still filling each other out and filling themselves out, right? I don't think teams even know their identities yet. You're still trying to figure out their roster. You're going through injuries. You're trying to figure out who are going to be the starters and guys going forward. So, going into week 3 and week 4, I think that's when we will start to see more consistent football play, hopefully. Not to say that it hasn't in the first 2 weeks, but you have seen some surprises like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And then you've seen some also surprises in a bad sense where you see the Texans starting off poorly when we thought that they would be a good team. You see the Saints that aren't really looking that good either. So I think instead of just focusing on specific games, I think it's been more of as we get more into this season, we will start to see guys better conditioned in football shape and hopefully better all-around football play. So I'm looking forward to these next couple weeks.
Very good point. And I forgot to mention your Cowboys beating the Giants too. There's a little bit of thoughts on that real quick?
That was a good game for the Cowboys defensively. I've said this all throughout training camp in the preseason and going into the regular season that I think this defense is very, very underrated, and they can be a top 10 defense. They had 6 sacks on Eli Manning, which is kind of unheard of for the Cowboys when they always play Eli Manning. He's always known for getting the ball out quick, but he wasn't able to do that. They held Odell Beckham Jr. to I think like 3 catches. He was really a non-factor.
The Giants' offense is not good.
The biggest threat to the Cowboys in that game was Saquon Barkley, who not necessarily in the rushing game, but I believe he had 11 catches for only like 50 yards or something, but Eli Manning was basically just dumping the ball off to Saquon Barkley.
Sam Bradford over
the entire game. So it was a good win for the Cowboys. They actually got Tavon Austin involved with a long, deep pass. The first possession of the game, it was like a 70, 80-yard touchdown pass from Dak Prescott. So that was very good to see the offense open up a little bit. They have another test this week going into Seattle. Even though Seattle's 0-2, they still got Russell Wilson there.
That's a tough game. Yeah.
It's interesting because Mr. Earl Thomas is still back there in Seattle. So
here we go.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
That might be a topic on the podcast next week. Let's see what happens with that.
For sure.
Yeah, obviously, I wanted to give you your credit, Cowboys, with their first win of the season against the Giants. Also, here's another game real quick just before. Bengals impressed me beating the Ravens, too. I thought the Ravens were going to be 2-0 easy.
A.J. Green, 3 touchdown catches.
That's what I'm talking about,
like
man.
up
But that
21-0.
defense looks good, too. The Bengals were such an afterthought for me. I didn't rate them very well. But, hey, you never know. With the Steelers... obviously stuff going on there. The Browns are probably not going to be a playoff team. They're very beatable, and then they already beat the Ravens. Hey, the Bengals might sneak in the playoffs this year. You never know. The AFC is definitely not as good as the NFC. So some of these AFC teams that are 10-6, 9-7 might be able to sneak in real quick. But let's go this week. And Joe, you want to do a little pick'em?
Let's do a little pick'em.
Let's do it. All right. So you give me the games. You got the screen right there, and we'll just
do.
go over them quick though, because we only got like 10 minutes.
Every single game?
Yeah.
You wanna
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the Thursday night matchup. The New York Jets and Sam Darnold traveling to Cleveland to face the 0-1-1.
Oh, there you go.
Browns. Cleveland Browns. Nick, who you got?
I got the Browns.
Really?
I got the Browns get their first win since 2016, baby.
Man,
dude,
really?
You know what I was talking about real quick? I was talking to my brother about, since he's been in high school, because he's a junior in high school right now, my brother has only seen one Browns win. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Isn't that amazing? But he will, if I'm right, he will see the second one. It's their first game dog pound. It's their first game in Cleveland. Sam Darnold's a turnover machine. I think the Browns will do enough. They got a solid defense. They'll do enough to get the win.
Wow. I think I'm going with the Jets on this one.
Okay.
It's
fair.
I think it's going to be a close game. It's a Thursday night game, so both teams have less time to prepare. Obviously, the Jets have to travel.
I heard Cleveland's very excited that they get to turn it around though, real quick after kind of failing.
Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
for both teams because the Jets are coming off a loss as well. So you get to kind of shake that off. There's no time to think about it and sulk. You got to go right into the following week. This Browns team is just. I like them, man. I really do, but I don't know if I can sit here and say they're going to win yet. I'm going with the Jets. I think Sam Darnold will get the job done, and I think they'll squeak out a win. It'll be like 16-13. I think it'll be
it's gonna be an ugly game. Ugly game.
Yeah. Ugly. Let's move to some of the morning games. Saints at Falcons.
I'm gonna have to go with the Falcons. Falcons at home is a tough matchup, and I think anybody that's playing Atlanta. If you're on the road, it's going to be tough, and the Saints showed that they're probably not the same team they were last year, so I think Falcons get another win.
I'm going with the Saints. I don't believe the Falcons have Devontae Freeman this week.
No, they don't.
And after week 1, when the Falcons once again could not score in the red zone against the Eagles, I still think that's one of their main concerns. So I am going with the Saints. Drew Brees to Mike Thomas is one of the best quarterback to receiving
most receptions in the year.
Most receptions so far. So that threat right there, and I think the Saints defense will start to play a little better than they have in the first couple weeks. I'm going with the Saints. Chiefs at home against the 49ers. Patrick Mahomes.
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go the 49ers to actually pull this one out. I think, like I mentioned, let's pump the brakes on Patrick Mahomes a little bit. I think this will be Garoppolo's best game as a NFL quarterback. And I think the 49ers, unfortunately for me, will get the upset win even in Arrowhead.
Okay, all right. Chiefs at home, Patrick Mahomes. I think this will be the week that he throws an interception and finally gets that going. But I think he will. The Chiefs are offensively definitely the more talented team. Defensively, it's probably a toss-up. I think both teams are level there. But I think the Chiefs have too many weapons. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt. Sammy Watkins, who we really haven't even talked about too much, right? But he had a 100-yard game last week. So Chiefs, too much offensive firepower in this one. Next up, Raiders at the Dolphins.
John Gruden's got to get a win at some point, and I think it's going to be against the Dolphins right here. Dolphins have been overachieving. The Raiders definitely got better last week, kind of blew the game against the Denver Broncos, but played well in Denver. They'll be able to go to Miami and win this game.
Really? I'm going with Dolphins are 2-0. Surprisingly, are we really
overrated
talking about
though?
the
I think it's overrated.
Overrated? Yeah. Okay. Ryan Tannehill's doing well. You know, Kenny Stills.
Yeah.
Receiver for him is playing lights out. I had 2 touchdown receptions in the first game. I forget what he did last week against the Jets, but Kenny Stills right there is the man. I think they're going to get Devontae Parker back this week. Their first-round draft pick from a couple years ago. He had a broken finger, and he's missed the first 2 games this year, but I believe he's had a full practice week so far. And if they can get him back with Kenny Stills, that receiving core is pretty good there. I'm going with the Dolphins at home. Listen, the Raiders had a good chance to win last week in Denver. They were leading the entire game, and then because of clock management miscues, and John Gruden just not playing well, they burned all 3 of their timeouts in the third quarter, so they had none left in the fourth, and they ended up losing on a late field goal to Denver. So I don't trust the Raiders at all. I think they go to 0-3, and I think the Dolphins go to 3-0.
This next game's easy.
Bills Vikings. Yeah, I don't think we really need to say much more than that. Colts and Eagles.
I think Eagles win, but it's a little closer because I think they'll tame their playbook a little bit, and Colts still have Andrew Luck, so they'll score. But I think it'll be a close game, but Eagles win.
Okay, yeah, I think the Eagles do as well. I think the entire team will be kind of energized by Carson Wentz coming back, and Carson Wentz doesn't have to play a perfect game.
It will be enough to win.
Right, exactly. I think the Eagles get the win at home. Packers at Redskins. This one's pretty interesting here.
I'm gonna go with the Packers. I think the Packers are gonna beat them like a +10.
Really?
Yeah. Because the Packers are I think they're kind of sick of like these close, crazy games where everything comes down the wire. So I'm gonna go Packers win this one easy, even though it's in Washington.
This one is interesting because obviously you have Aaron Rodgers, who's still obviously banged up and nowhere near 100%, but he was able to play and finish the entire game against the Vikings last week in a tie. But when Aaron Rodgers is on the field, it's tough to go against him.
100%.
And then you have the Redskins team, who week 1 looked really, really good against the Cardinals, but then the Cardinals looked horrible.
The Redskins didn't look good last week, and I believe lost to the Colts. So
right.
they were, when you play the Cardinals, if you played the Cardinals this year, or the Redskins and Rams, don't take that Cardinals game as anything meaningful. The Cardinals just are not good.
If Aaron Rodgers plays, you have to go with the Packers here. Next up, Bengals at Panthers.
Ooh, this is a very interesting game. I am going to go with the Panthers, but this is one of my more hesitant picks. I could go either way with this one. Just because Cincinnati look good, but Panthers at home, it's tough to pick against Carolina, and especially after a loss, I don't see Carolina going to 1-2.
Whew. Man, how can you go against the Bengals after the way that they looked
Carolina
last Thursday?
at home, though. Carolina doesn't lose
Right. But the Bengals played last Thursday, so they get that extra 3-day stretch to prepare.
This is actually the second time the Panthers are having a team with 10.
Oh, really? 10 days of rest.
The RKJ man for telling me that the other day.
Okay.
I realized that. But
okay.
they've had extra rest against. So that's what I'm saying. It's gonna be tough, but I'm just not gonna pick against Carolina at home.
I'm going with the Bengals, man. Listen, I think Andy Dalton so far has played really well. The one exception to this, and this is just coming to me right now, so I might have to change that pick later on. Joe Mixon is out for a couple weeks. He has an injury, so their lead back is out. They're going to have to go with Giovanni Bernard and their rookie Mark Walton. So that's not, they don't really have a consistent number one back. So that could come back to hurt them. But the way that this offense is rolling on a passing game so far has done well. So I'm going with the Bengals. Titans, Jaguars.
I got Jaguars all the way on this
Jaguars
one. They're
at
too
home.
good at defense.
Titans, Marcus Mariota still not 100%. I think we can both pretty easily agree. Jaguars. Broncos at the Ravens.
Man, this is such a toss-up game. I'm going to go with the Ravens just because they're at home. They did not look good against the Bengals. They might want some redemption. Is Denver 2-0 or are they 1-1 this
Denver's
year?
Denver's 2-0. They had their first two games at home.
Yeah, so they'll lose this one. I think they've gotten a little lucky. This is the first game on the road. You're going all the way back east, too. So I think the Ravens will get this.
Yeah, I believe the Ravens will as well. Even though they had kind of a letdown last Thursday in Cincinnati, I think they bounced back. They blew out the Bills in week 1. The Bills are non-existent.
Just like the Cardinals, so, I'm telling you guys, just like the Cardinals.
That game doesn't really matter.
Yeah, don't look at it.
But the Ravens' defense is legit. The Broncos get their first game on the road, so they had 2 games at home at first. But I think the Ravens will come out and kind of squeak out a win. I think this will be kind of an ugly defensive matchup. But in the end, I'm going to give it to the Ravens on like a late game field goal win. Giants at Texans.
Man, who expected both these teams to be 0-2 at the beginning of the season? Giants are going to go 0-3. I'm going Texans at home. They got to get a win soon. Deshaun Watson eventually will have a great game, and I think this is that game.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not that I ever had trust in Eli Manning. Eli Manning is trending way down.
Absolutely trending down.
Way down. He has a lot of pieces around him, and the fact that he is not able to get those weapons involved. I mean, listen, last week against the Cowboys, you have to give the Cowboys defense credit, but Odell Beckham Jr. with like 3 receptions for less than 50 yards after he gets that huge mammoth contract right before the season starts. That to me shows that I don't think this quarterback in Eli Manning has what it takes to get this team to win games anymore.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I agree. Texans get their first win of the season. Chargers at Rams.
Dude, it's a Battle of LA. Battle of LA. I love this matchup. I have to go with the Rams. The Rams are too good. And the people have been saying, oh, if the Chargers win, the Rams are still the team in LA. But I think the Rams are just too good right now. They played 2 easy defenses. This is a much tougher defense than the Chargers, but it's not tough enough to get the win. I think the Rams go to 3-0, and the Chargers go to 1-2.
Yeah, I'm giving this one to the Rams. I think this will be a very, very good game. The Rams, I think, just have a little too much firepower on offense. The Chargers are still without Joey Bosa. That's a big loss for them. You know, you need to get pass rush or some type of pass rush on the quarterback.
Yes.
And if Jared Goff is able to sit back and can do his thing, you've got Jared Cook, you obviously have Todd Gurley, Cooper Kupp. I think this offense will be a little too much for the Chargers defense in the end, but I think this will be a good game, one of the better matchups of Week 3.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bears and Cardinals heading into the late games.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup only because the Cardinals, you can't look worse, so they definitely will come out looking better. And the Bears didn't look that good against the Seahawks offense, so I think the Cardinals defense will be able to stop Mitch Trubisky. This is a close game. I'm just going to go with the Bears because the Cardinals have not shown me anything really, and I think there's a lot of people from Chicago that live in Arizona. There will be a lot of Bears fans, especially since the Cardinals fans probably won't come out too hard for these games since they look so bad. I'm going to go with the Bears close, but I could see the Cardinals also winning this game.
I mean, after the way the Cardinals have looked in the first 2 weeks, I can't pick them.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's the same with me, but they will come out looking better, and I just don't know how good the Bears are yet. So I'm not going to come out here and say that the Bears are going to kill them and stuff like that.
This is almost like Bears by default.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're coming off a good win on Monday night against the Seattle Seahawks, but they did play Monday night, so that's one less day to prepare. Plus, they have to travel to Arizona, but. I can't give this to Arizona the way that they've looked so far.
I totally agree.
We're going to move to the last late game on Sunday, Cowboys at Seahawks.
This is an interesting matchup. I'm going to have to go with the Seahawks, though. Seahawks are 0-2. I don't think they go to 0-3, and I don't think the Cowboys are good enough offensively to get this done in Seattle. This is the first game in Seattle, right?
Yes,
the Seahawks.
Their first home game.
So I think they'll get the win. Seattle at home is still a different monster. I know the Cardinals have somehow been able to beat them at home the last couple of years, but that's more of an anomaly thing. I think that the Cowboys, they got to win over the Giants. They took advantage of that, but I just want to see more out of Dak, and I haven't seen it enough. And Seahawks still have Russell Wilson, so I'm going to go with them at home.
Okay, yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very close game. Like you mentioned, first game at home for Seattle. They're going to be pumped
defensive
up.
Battle.
Right, defensive battle. They're going to be looking for that first win. They've had 2 close games and 2 close losses. The Cowboys, I'm still not sure exactly what type of team they are. Their defense is playing very, very well. Do they have enough offensive firepower to sustain drives and keep that Seattle defense off, or keep that Seattle offense off the field, and specifically Russell Wilson? So I'm going to go with my Cowboys. I think they overall have more talent than the Seattle team does. I think on offense it's Seattle and really no one else, right? You stop Russell Wilson, I think you beat them. So if the Cowboys can do that, they get a win on the road. We got the Sunday night matchup and then the Monday night matchup, and that wraps up Week 3. Sunday night, Patriots at Lions. I think this one's pretty easy.
The Patriots got this. I didn't see the Lions going 0-3, but I'm not going to say, especially after adding Josh Gordon, there's no way the Patriots lose this game.
Yeah, no, Patriots win this one. Obviously, Matt Patricia is going to want to come home and beat his former team.
Yeah.
But I think Bill Belichick, listen, if Josh Gordon plays, we'll see what happens there. Patriots are going to out-scheme the Lions here. And the Monday night matchup that we have somewhat already talked about, Steelers at Buccaneers.
I think the Steelers get this. I think they need a win, and they're going to get it. And I think AB will go off. And good old Fitzmagic probably will play good again, but I don't see Tampa Bay going 3-0. I don't see the Steelers going 0-2-1.
AB is going to go off.
Okay, yeah.
Big Ben's going to have a big game. James Conner's going to have a good game, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is kind of like Swiss cheese. Fitzmagic will continue to line it up
my goodness.
against a poor Steelers secondary.
I like it, though. We almost disagreed on, like, almost all of those games.
The Steelers secondary is garbage. I'm sorry. It's one of the worst units in the NFL. Their front seven is very, very good. But I think Fitzmagic is going to be able to find Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson along with O.J. Howard at the tight end spot. I think they will do just enough. I think this is actually going to be a pretty good Monday night game.
Absolutely.
I'm giving it to the Bucs at home. I say they go 3-0, and I say that Pittsburgh Steelers start 0-2-1.
There you go. You hear the music right there. A little different music if you're listening on OC Rock Radio now. Not Enter Sandman, just because the board is being a little difficult today, so we're not able to do that. But if you are listening on the online version on YouTube or SoundCloud, you are hearing Enter Sandman. But nonetheless, Jared, good podcast day. Always down for the NFL. We'll see. We were disagreed on a lot of those NFL games, so it should be interesting to see who was right on a lot of those NFL games. But overall, good week. Once again, I'm Nick Leland.
I'm Jared Smith.
And it's been the Cover 2 Podcast.